Are you waking up tired, frustrated, and quietly wondering why your body doesn't respond the way it used to? Many men over 60 tell me they feel disconnected from their strength, especially in the bedroom, and they don't know why. I'm Dr. Maria Jose Freire, a urologist with over 35 years of experience caring for men's health. Today, I want to show you something simple most doctors overlook, and by the end, you may see erections very differently. Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from, and if this matters to you, gently like and subscribe. But here's what most people don't realize. When erections begin to fade after 60, it's rarely because your body has given up. I hear this quiet resignation all the time in my clinic. Men sit across from me, lower their voice and say, "Doctor, I guess this is just age." And every time I gently stop them, because that belief, that loss of firmness is simply the price of getting older, does far more harm than the aging process itself. It creates tension, fear, and self-blame. And those emotions alone can shut down the very systems required for an erection. I want you to know this clearly. What you're experiencing is common, and it does not mean you're weak, broken, or less of a man. Erections are not a test of masculinity. They are a physical response that depends on two very practical systems working together, blood flow and nerve signaling. When either one is disrupted, firmness changes. That's physiology, not failure. As we age, circulation naturally becomes less efficient. Blood vessels stiffen slightly, and years of sitting, stress, and poor sleep begin to show their effects. At the same time, the nerves that carry arousal signals from the brain to the pelvic region can become less responsive, especially when the body is living in a constant state of low-grade tension. Your nervous system doesn't distinguish between emotional stress and physical threat. When it senses pressure, work stress, health worries, performance anxiety, it shifts into protection mode. And in protection mode, erections are not a priority. I often explain it this way to my patients. Your body is not refusing to perform. It's trying to protect you. Chronic tension in the pelvis, lower back, and abdomen subtly restricts blood flow and dampens nerve signals. Over time, this becomes a pattern. You expect disappointment, your body tightens, and the cycle reinforces itself. Yes, testosterone does decline gradually with age, and that matters, but it is rarely the sole cause of weak erections. I've treated men with normal testosterone who struggle, and men with lower levels who regain strong function once circulation and nerve communication are restored. Hormones are part of the picture, not the whole canvas. This is why awareness is so powerful. The moment you stop blaming yourself, your nervous system begins to soften, shoulders drop, breathing deepens, blood flows more freely. That shift alone can change how your body responds. Healing often starts not with force, but with understanding. And this is where things get interesting, because circulation alone isn't the full story. There are two specific nerve points, rarely discussed, that play a critical role in restoring firmness. And most men never stimulate them correctly. Now here's the mistake most seniors make. They focus only on blood flow and completely ignore the nervous system. And yet every erection begins as a signal long before it becomes a physical response. In my years of practice, I've seen men improve circulation with medication or supplements and still feel disappointed because the signal itself never fully arrived. The body needs permission before it can respond. I often tell my patients that erections don't start in the penis. They start in the brain, travel through the spinal cord, and arrive at the pelvic nerves like a quiet message saying, "It's safe now." If that message is weak, delayed, or blocked, the response will be incomplete, no matter how strong the blood vessels are. The problem is that many men over 60 are unknowingly living in what I call a constant alert state. Years of responsibility, pressure, loss, health scares, and poor sleep keep the nervous system on edge. Even when you're resting, your body may still be bracing, and a braced nervous system prioritizes survival, not pleasure. This is not something you choose, it's something your body learns. There are two branches of the nervous system that matter here. One is designed for action and protection. The other is designed for rest, connection, and intimacy. Erections belong entirely to the second one. But when stress dominates, even quiet stress, that receptive branch goes offline. Signals weaken, sensation dulls, response slows. What surprises many men is how physical this process actually is. The nerves that control erections pass through areas of the pelvis, hips, and lower spine that commonly hold tension. Sitting for long hours, tight clothing, old injuries, even unconscious clenching. Over time, these areas become guarded. Nerve communication doesn't stop, it just becomes faint, like a radio station full of static. This is where targeted external stimulation becomes so powerful, not aggressive, not forceful, Gentle, intentional pressure in the right locations can remind those nerves how to communicate clearly again. It's similar to rebooting a system that's been running in the background for years. When done correctly, men often notice not just improved firmness, but a return of sensation, warmth, and spontaneous response. I've watched men's faces change when they realize this. Relief replaces shame. Curiosity replaces fear, because suddenly the problem feels solvable, not mysterious or personal. And one of these nerve points is so close to the surface, so overlooked, that men are often shocked no doctor ever mentioned it before. That's the first point I want to show you next. But here's what most people don't realize. One of the most important reset points for erections isn't hidden deep inside the body. It's right where tension quietly accumulates over decades. In my clinic, when I assess men over 60, I almost always find the same pattern. The pelvic area is guarded, not painfully tight, just constantly holding. And that subtle tension is enough to limit blood flow and mute nerve signals without you ever noticing it. This first point is anatomical, not mystical. It sits along the pelvic floor region where key nerves and blood vessels pass through on their way to the penis. Over years of sitting, stress, and unconscious bracing, this area learns to stay on. The body thinks it's helping by holding things together, but in reality, that constant holding acts like a kink in a hose. Blood arrives more slowly, signals arrive weaker, and erections feel partial, delayed, or unreliable. What I want you to understand is that this isn't something to attack or force. Many men make that mistake. They press too hard, rush, or treat the body like a machine that needs to be pushed. But the pelvic nerves don't respond to aggression. They respond to safety. Slow, gentle pressure combined with calm breathing sends a powerful message to the nervous system. You can let go now. When men practice this correctly, something interesting happens. They begin to feel warmth where there was numbness. A sense of heaviness replaces tightness. Blood flow improves not because it's being forced, but because resistance is being removed. This is why some men notice changes even outside the bedroom: better urinary control, less pelvic discomfort, deeper relaxation. I often remind my patients that consistency matters more than strength. A few minutes, done calmly and regularly, teaches the body a new baseline. You're not fixing yourself, you're retraining your nervous system to allow what it's been blocking for years. And while this first point lays the foundation, it's only half of the equation. On its own, it helps release tension and invite blood flow. But to truly restore responsiveness, it needs to be paired with a second point, one that amplifies the signal itself. And that's where most men stop too soon. Now, here's what most seniors don't expect. Restoring firmness isn't about creating more force, it's about restoring communication. This second point works very differently from the first. While the pelvic reset point helps the body let go, this one helps the nervous system speak more clearly. And without clear communication, even good blood flow can feel wasted. This point connects into a reflex pathway that runs through the lower spine and back into the pelvic nerves. I explain it to my patients like this. The body uses loops. When one part receives gentle, consistent input, it sends a message back through the system saying, stay awake, stay responsive. Over time, that loop weakens with age, stress, and inactivity. The body stops checking in as often. Erections become less spontaneous, less reliable. What's important here is how you approach it. Men often think more pressure equals better results, but the nervous system doesn't work that way. Pressing too hard actually triggers resistance. The body tightens, signals retreat. Instead, slow, intentional contact, combined with relaxed breathing, encourages the reflex to re-engage naturally. When men do this correctly, they often report something subtle before anything dramatic. Morning erections begin to return. Sensation feels sharper. Confidence improves because the body feels more predictable again. These are signs that communication is being restored, not forced. I want to be clear. This is not about chasing instant results. The men who benefit most are the ones who treat this as a daily signal of care rather than a test. Consistency tells the nervous system it can trust you, and when the body feels trust, it responds. This second point doesn't replace the first, it completes it. Together, they create both openness and clarity, release and response. And once men experience that combination, they stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking a much better question, how do I support this? And that realization is exactly where real recovery begins. I want to speak to you man to man for a moment because this part matters just as much as the science. I've looked thousands of men in the eyes, men in their 60s, 70s, even well beyond, who quietly believed their best years were already behind them. They weren't angry, they weren't dramatic, they were simply tired of being disappointed by their own bodies. And every time I tell them the same truth, Your body is not broken. It is responding exactly as it was trained to respond after years of stress, silence, pressure, and neglect. Masculinity does not disappear with age. It evolves. And with the right care, it returns in calmer, deeper ways, confidence without force, presence without anxiety, intimacy without pressure to perform. You don't need shame. You don't need aggressive pills that ignore the root of the problem. You need understanding, patience, and the right signals delivered consistently and kindly. That's how the body learns it's safe to respond again. And that is exactly what we are restoring here, not just erections, but trust between you and your body. If you found this valuable, I invite you to join our community and subscribe so you never miss guidance designed specifically for men like you. Men over 50 deserve clear answers, not embarrassment, fear, or silence. Remember the question I asked you at the beginning, why your body no longer responds the same way it used to? Now you know the answer. It was never about failure. It was about signals that had gone quiet. You deserve confidence, you deserve energy, you deserve deep, restorative sleep and intimacy that feels natural again. Take care of your health because you are worth it. And I'll be here with you every step forward.